Derek Carr benched for the Raiders. Derek Carr has started 142 games for the Raiders, moved to Vegas with the franchise. He has now cemented the team's leading statistics in passing yards and passing touchdowns. He's only missed 2 regular season games due to injury, and he has 63 wins as the starter for the Raiders, behind only Ken Stabler, who has 69. But he's been benched. After not playing well, we should say that. He's thrown 9 interceptions in the last 5 games. But what's so much of a so disappointing about this, I guess, or what I think is going to be the subtext that's missed for a lot of people, is that I think this has a lot less to do with Derek Carr's play and more to do with the Raiders being a cheap organization that doesn't want to pay his $40 million injury guarantee, which becomes fully vested soon. I think it's in the 2023 waiver period, sometime fairly soon in the off season, and the money would become fully guaranteed. And Mark Davis is like, well, I don't have that, so we're gonna unceremoniously bench this guy who has been almost comically corny on the record about how much he loves the Raiders organization, who puts his heart and soul into the team, and who has battled through a lot of dysfunction, including with John Gruden, who is not an easy guy to play for. And they traded for Devontae Adams in the offseason, his BFF, and then signed him. What the hell was the point of that? But it seems like this was a combination of that financial reality, which I think is definitely the driving factor, and also a coach in Josh McDaniels who has shown a willingness to do this kind of thing in the past. I mean, people forget, before Josh McDaniels was a head coach of the Raiders and before he came back to the Patriots, he was signed to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and he did this before with Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler, he had a big arm and stuff, but McDaniels was like, I don't want you to lead my organization. This is not good enough. And Jay Cutler has had issues being a leader in the past. Derek Carr has not. So this has more to do with, I think, Carr's play. But of course, really, the reality is just the guaranteed money. So this was, I think, pressure from ownership. But it was made easier by the fact that Carr has not played well recently. And so he's now benched, and they're going to see what they've got with Jarrett Stidham. And also what's insane in this case is that the Raiders are technically alive in the playoff race. I mean, there's a very small chance that happens, but you don't really see this move unless you're completely out of the playoff race mathematically. It's the reason we're not seeing Jordan Love right now, is because the Packers have a very, very small, I guess it's less small now with the Lions loss, now that I think about it. But the Packers have a chance to get into the playoffs, right? And so until you play your starters until you're mathematically eliminated, and it's impossible to get into the playoffs. But that's not the case here, and that's because the owner, Mark Davis, is terrified that Carr will get injured. He'll have to pay all that money. And now they're going to try to find a trade partner, at least on the surface, but no one's going to want to take on that guaranteed money either, because the contract is stacked in a way that it increases yearly, but it's not really guaranteed. So I would imagine that they're just going to cut him, take the smaller dead cap hit before the contract is or before the waiver period, before it's fully vested, and they'll cut him and take the dead cap hit and move on and try to find somebody in free agency. And one more point on that before we get to who they might target in free agency, but it really is amazing how both the Packers and the Raiders lost that trade, and the Chiefs and the Dolphins both won the Tyreek Hill trade. I mean, there can be trades that are lose-loses, and there can be trades that are win-wins, and that's a prime example of that. So my hunch, and it's just a hunch, aka a guess, like it can't be inside information because I don't have any ability to acquire inside information because I'm just a fan that has takes, and I think my takes are pretty decent, but not an insider quite yet. My guess is that Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback of the Raiders next year. He just came back to beat the Raiders in that epic comeback coming off the street or off the plane, whatever, for the Rams. Showing off, some of his high-end ability, because Baker Mayfield's never had a weak arm. That's never been the issue. It's just been like inconsistency and coaching, potentially, attitude, touch, that kind of stuff. But when you have high-end traits like that, you're always going to have an offensive-minded coach who's like, well, I like that. And they might like his moxie as well. You can call it a diva attitude or you can call it moxie, and it really just depends on coaching. But also people forget that the Patriots were interested in Baker Mayfield by all accounts when he was coming out in the draft. Now, it was unrealistic that they were going to be able to trade up to get him. The Browns were not giving up that first overall pick, and they thought that he was their guy, and they were not going to let their guy slip through their hands. I mean, you see, in hindsight, maybe they should have, given the fact that they had this ugly divorce and moved on from him. But if you're like the Bengals, right? I mean, I think the Dolphins were offering a ton of their first round picks so they could get to Burrow. The Bengals made the right choice. I mean, if you think you have the franchise at your fingertips, a guy like Joe Burrow, you're not going to trade that pick. And the Browns miscalculated. What else is new? But that's beside the point. I mean, Josh McDaniels was with the Patriots when they were interested in Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is going to be the hottest commodity in free agency coming up in the 2023 season for the quarterback position. Jimmy G will also be there. Tom Brady is also going to be a free agent. Am I fully convinced that he's actually going to come back to football? No. There are a lot of people that think that's the case. There are rumors that he's going to go to New Orleans with Sean Payton. I don't know why the hell he would want to do that. The guy looks absolutely miserable, but maybe he lost some money with that FTX stuff. Maybe he, has nothing left to lose now that he lost his wife due to coming back to play. I don't really know. But besides Tom Brady, who will be the hottest name, even if his playing at this point has been pretty poor, Baker Mayfield will be the hottest player, I think, commodity in free agency for the quarterback position. I mean, there's a chance Lamar Jackson hits free agency, but they're going to franchise tag him. So they might tag and trade him. That could be something interesting. But I do think Baker Mayfield, they can get him for a decent deal in Las Vegas. That's my guess. He's younger, maybe a bit more of a risk taker, and perhaps McDaniels thinks that he can mold Baker Mayfield into the ideal quarterback for his system.